To the Mayo Media Network's Fantasy Hockey Picks and Bets show. I am Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell to cover this massive 14-13 game night in the NHL. DJ, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, should have been 14 games, but COVID got us, so we only got 13 games on this slate. But I'm really excited to get after it. I mean, our first of two mega slates here in a row. NHL decided one game Monday, and we'll just put them all on Tuesday and Thursday. So good for us. We have a lot to cover here, though, so I don't want to waste a lot of time. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Matt, is there anything you want to get started with before we get into these games, breaking them down?
Yeah, just in general, it's been a slow Monday, so really looking forward to this Tuesday here. Let's give a shout out to our Fade the Noise FTN Daily. If you want to talk about DFS type stuff, they have all the tools there for you. Also FTN Betting, if you're more interested in the bet side, use promo code Mayo, let them know we sent you, and also support the show. So definitely feel free to do those things. Now, if you want to talk about betting and daily fantasy, well, boy, do I have the Tuesday slate for you. Like we said, 13 games, ton of places to look, ton of bets you can find. Even on DraftKings, they made it basically their premier GPP of the night, of the season, really. $50K to first with the Spinorama, $360 to enter for those, higher bankroll people. This show, what we'll do is we will go game by game, talking about all the news you need to know. We'll talk about our favorite bets from those games. And then at the end, we'll sort of recap with a GPP-centric part of the daily fantasy aspect of this slate. So we'll talk, about our top line stacks and things like that. And as we'll allude to later as well, if you want more in-depth DFS coverage, be sure to check out our podcast at the Morning Skate Podcast. So I think with all of that out of the way, we can just dive right into the 13 games on deck here. First up, we have Pittsburgh and Boston. Boston a minus 137 favorite in a rather low, 5.5 over under game. DJ, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think, anytime you get Pittsburgh's defense in a 5.5, I think it's a pretty fair to bet. I'm not incredibly high on it against Boston. It's not my favorite bet of the night by any means. It might not even be one that I really end up honing in on, but a 5.5 does seem low. I think it's going to go over potentially. I like what Pittsburgh is doing. They are changing up their lines. So we're expecting a Crosby with Rust and Gensel. It's going to be a little bit unique. It's going to all correlate on the power play. So it's definitely a stackable option. We'll get to the stacks later, though, when we cover more of the daily fantasy stuff. But it is a good change. Erod, unfortunately, Evan Rodriguez is out. It could be long-term. We don't know yet the severity of it, but it is a lower body injury that they're expecting him to miss time. So sad to see him go down with an injury. Never want to see that, but we are going to get different correlations and combinations. That is always kind of fun. The other news and notes in this game are basically on the Boston side. Pastrnak is potentially in. I think we'll know in morning skate. He did practice in a normal jersey. So he practiced seemingly in full, but he was splitting time on rushes. So I'm not overly confident in him being in. Matt, anything I missed here? Any bets or props you're really in on?
Yeah, I think the one other thing worth noting is Matt Grzelcyk. With his absence expected, Charlie McAvoy will be, just kind of thrust into a larger role on that top power play and everything. So I like, getting pieces of him in DFS and, in these sort of bet the points type player props. But in general, I think, any game with this Pittsburgh defense, 5.5 total, the over seems good here. Boston hasn't scored much to begin the year, but, guys like David Krejci and Nick Ritchie, they're not playing terribly. And obviously that top line, Patrice Bergeron and Marchand, they're going to do their thing. And I certainly don't, I'm not too doubtful that Pittsburgh also brings some fireworks here. So I think my favorite bet from this game is the over. And then if we get confirmation that Pastrnak is not playing, David Krejci on that first power play, to pick up a point, he's basically 50-50. The puck a lot of that power play. And also at 5-on-5, he and Nick Ritchie have been pretty good. So that's really my thoughts on that game. Next up, we can get over to the Sabres and Rangers. This game is a straight up pick 'em, and the total as we're recording this is about 6.5. It could be between 6 and 6.5. But in any case, it's one of the highest tempo, highest scoring games of the night, and it's a straight up pick 'em. So DJ, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, on the Sabres side, we did see them switch up the lines a bit in the third period. So we had Olofsson with Reinhardt and Eichel, which definitely changes the way you might want to bet on this game. We're going to get confirmation in the morning skate for sure. Well, at least I assume that they're going to skate. So I'm wondering about that Olofsson goal prop, as they're definitely featuring him on the power play. If he is with Eichel, I do like it. If they do reunite the Hall Eichel Reinhardt line, they're all in the top 5 for expected goals on the season. So I think any of them in some capacity could be a decent take here on a goal prop bet. Just because they're expecting to score so many more goals than they're actually getting, that you're probably going to get pretty decent odds on it at the time you make the bet. Other than that, a 6, I really like the over. 6.5, I mean, it's still bettable to me. If you can get this at 6, I think you take it all day and you put some money on it. If not, then I mean, I think you just kind of try to pick your poison with the player props. So Matt, anything you want to note here?
Yeah, so on the Rangers side, with Philip Hedl going down, we don't have a great sense of what their lines are going to look like. But obviously, that's a reliable center for them who is gone. So we could see Lafreniere stick up with Mika Zibanejad. That's what I'm expecting to happen, especially when you look at, on DraftKings, their pricing of Zibanejad. It's just way cheaper than he has been to begin the year. So you could bet on, basically Zibanejad hasn't been great to start the season, but you could bet on him sort of rounding into form. And you could also bet on regression of these Sabres. I mean, like you mentioned, Eichel, Hall, Reinhardt, like they've all been driving play and not been getting much reward for it. So, I'm all things Eichel all the time, obviously. He's a wonderful player. But in this spot, it seems like the Sabres maybe shouldn't be like even favorites the way they've played the beginning of the year. And it seems like they maybe deserved better than they got against Washington and Philly. So give me the Sabres side of this game. And I also like your Olofsson prop.
Yeah, I mean, he is in between Kreider and Skinner for a 2 score a goal at plus 240. Like Skinner's plus 255. I feel like that just doesn't make sense. Is Olofsson a mortal lock here? No, he does most of his damage on the power play, where like all of his points have generated from. But that's because he's so heavily featured. Like his high danger scoring chances on the power play are really high. So I think if you got a guy in the prominent power play role at that kind of odds, it just makes sense to put a little bit of money on that while it's hot. And he's still featured as the shooter. So definitely take that. But we can move over now to Philadelphia at New Jersey, 5.5. I think a lot of people will like the under here. New Jersey has been unbelievable at keeping the puck out of their net. I think we both kind of like that to break at some point. If you would have told me these odds at the beginning of the year, Philadelphia minus 152, New Jersey plus 130, this many games in, I would have called you crazy. Like Philadelphia is one of my favorite teams still in the league, and New Jersey's, I think, is still could finish in the basement. So Matt, with all that being said, what are your feelings on this game? Are you in on the Philly side as much as I am?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think the Flyers are made up of just Sean Couturier and a bunch of plugs, and that's the way they've played. I mean, that literally Couturier went down and they've been awful. But frankly, I just don't buy it. I think they'll find it. This is as good a spot as any, I think, against the Devils here. So to me, it's basically all things Flyers. On DraftKings, we'll talk about some of their pricing later, but man, they are far too cheap. And then just in this game in general, I mean, I'm looking at their player props, and you can get, reliable shooters like Travis Konechny to go over 2.5. You get plus 150 on that bet. Like, this guy, 3 shots, like, yeah, it's not a mortal lock, obviously, but you're getting really good value to go after that. It's better odds than Giroux, and they should be sharing a power play. Konechny's been the guy there for a good half a season last year. Going into this year, he's still been the guy. So I really like Travis Konechny here, and I really like all the Flyers, as we'll touch on later. So
on the power play for Konechny, really quickly, his high danger Corsi for 60 on just power play is just a hair higher than Toffoli. And like I know Toffoli's been pretty lucky. It's just a little bit below Besser and a decent bit below McKinnon. But I mean, that range is obviously it's tough because I'm only doing players with over 10 minutes, which is giving me some like super random power play 2 guys. But Konechny is kind of in that range of guys on the power play that are pretty featured in shooting roles. So not that you can really bet on a guy getting a ton of power play run, but he will see a good amount of time. And that's just a really sharp player prop bet, I think,
Yeah.
for the over on the shots for sure.
All right, so let's get over to the Islanders at Capitals and keep things moving.
Yeah.
Obviously the Capitals, we've seen for a couple games now how they respond without Ovechkin, without Kuznetsov, Orlov, and Samsonov in net. They actually had a pretty good run, against the Sabres, picking up 3 points, and they get to face the Islanders, who are coming off of that shutout loss to the seemingly unbeatable Devils at this point. So what do you think about the Caps, and is there any value sort of left in their players to pick up on?
I mean, I think that you can. I don't know if there's anyone that I'm really, really strong on. I think on DraftKings, if you're going to play, lineups, there's a lot of value in Capitals players. I'm not sure if there's one line that I'm super high on. I mean, outside of Backstrom, I think that they're priced pretty fairly overall. I just don't know if I'm going to be incredibly high on this game in general, as far as like I kind of like the under. I just don't think I'm going to be really going crazy, like thinking like, well, there's going to be multiple goal scorers. So overall, this game is more of a fade in daily fantasy, unless if I just pick one Vrana or something as like a one-off, but I think there's better one-offs at that price. So overall, I'm kind of out on this game. I don't mind taking one of the shot, like the Anders Lee minus 118 for over 2.5 shots. I think that's a pretty safe bet there. He seems to be hitting that pretty much every game. So
Yeah. All right.
other
Hear
than
me
that,
out. If you
yeah.
told me, 2 weeks into the season, I would be sitting here telling you to bet a Nick Backstrom over prop on shots, yeah, I would call you crazy. But here we are. There's no Ovi. No Kuznetsov as well. Their power play has been Nick Backstrom shooting the puck.
Which is crazy.
You
It
know,
looked like it was
the,
gonna be O'Shea, but
yeah, the 2 games against Buffalo, they set up Oshie in the OV spot. That didn't work. They moved Carlson over there. They slid up Schultz to that first unit. And that's somehow both games. Backstrom has a combined 9 shots in those 2 games. So, you're getting plus 135 on over 2.5. Backstrom's going to have the puck. And if this is in any way indicative of how, they're looking to sort of make up for the loss of Kuznetsov and Ovi, well, there's only a couple games left to get on this value. And so I think I'm going to take it, as crazy as it may sound. Backstrom, plus 135 to go over 2.5. I'm in on that. Otherwise, there's not a ton I like here. Like you said, I think it's mostly a fade from a DFS perspective, besides Justin Schultz, just because he's mispriced for the role he has.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I still like. I mean, the Anders Lee, like looking more into it, he has had a couple bad games in a row, which is why it went from the 3.5 we saw early to the 2.5. But he's still, as far as just raw shots, I Corsi per 60 or I Corsi 4 per 60, he's still one of the better players in the league. So I think those two are pretty sharp takes there, and we can kind of move right over
yeah.
to the next game.
All right. So we have Florida and Columbus. Now, Columbus obviously coming off this weekend where they made the giant trade, Pierre-Luc Dubois for Roslovic and Laine. Our thoughts on that deal sort of set aside just because the slate is so massive, and frankly, Laine is not even on the slate, so there's not much to talk about. Or sorry, he's not with the team, I should say, obviously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Columbus still has a void of offense that needs to be filled. They have a void at center that needs to be filled. And we haven't seen much of Florida. They had their games, postponed recently due to COVID. So, there's a lot of uncertainty here, I think. And so this is an area where I think there's a lot of, just goodness from a betting perspective and DFS. So, just to start things off, Columbus is a slight favorite, minus 120. So, do you like those odds for Columbus? Are you on the Florida side? And what do you feel about this over-under being set all the way up at 6 for a Columbus game?
I mean, I'm on the Florida side, but Sergei Bobrovsky kind of in your revenge narrative, even though he's already been in Florida for a little while now. I don't think, but basically I'm on the under. If it lands at 6, I'm probably on the under. I think Bobrovsky is a little bit better than he's played. I'm not fully in on the Bobrovsky's dead narrative that people are starting to build. I just don't know. I think Bobrovsky's a fine goalie still, and goalie's just random, and he's played like one game. So I'm not ready to call him dead yet. So I think I like the Florida side a bit. I think where this game really gets interesting is, again, like if you want to get some crazy odds, Matt, do you want to guess what Connor Verhaeghe to score odds are?
Oh boy. What plus? I mean, so he's playing with Barkov. So is that priced in
Yes,
maybe plus 250?
plus 420.
Ooh.
Plus 420. Now, I know you're thinking Connor Verhage, he's been a little lucky to start the year. Are we sure we're ready to get in on that narrative? I mean, this guy has had some of the highest high danger scoring chances in the league because he plays with Barkov. So he's right up there with the likes of, again, this is guys that have played more than 10 minutes, the likes of Goryanov, who we're going to get to, Brady the Chuck, Landeskog, Skinner, McDavid, as far as high danger scoring. He's above McDavid right now, which again, McDavid plays way more minutes. So it's like tough for him to keep that. But he's right up there, actually fourth for guys over 10 minutes at all strengths. Just a guy that like this doesn't make sense at this price. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
don't put the house on it, but
here's the obvious reason why it's a value. I mean, his line mate, Anthony Duclair, hasn't really gotten it done, but he's plus 300 with Barkov still. So, like, you're just getting that extra value there. I think that's a great catch and should make sense.
These are basically defenseman level of betting odds. And this guy's on for his first power play or second?
Second, but,
yeah,
still with Barkov. So,
it's just crazy.
Anyway.
Like, put $10 on it. Have fun.
Yeah, so the Columbus side of things, could get kind of interesting. We should see Bjorkstrand centered by Alex Texier. Both of those two guys are very cheap across, the daily fantasy industry. So I like that. Otherwise, I think we've pretty much covered all there is here. So let's get over to Chicago at Nashville. Chicago coming in kind of hot off of their stomping of the lowly Detroit Red Wings. Whereas Nashville's coming in limping, just getting throttled by Dallas, a 7-0 their first game, and then kind of falling flat out of the gate. I think they went down 3-0 early and then struggled to make that a 3-2 final. So we did see something we like though, DJ. Did you want to talk to me about Victor Arvidsson?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, he's not one of the player props for shots because he has been such the focal point of their power play. He had a 5-on-5. He had almost every one of their, I got to find the stat quick. Was it double?
He was the only player to have multiple high danger scoring chances in that game. He had 5.
At 5-on-5. Only at 5-on-5 too. And that didn't even include the power play, where if you look at like the Corsi per 60 compared to the rest of the Nashville guys, like he's shooting the puck a ton on the power play. They do like to feature the defenseman a little more. So I think that'll sway a little bit between Yossi and him. As far as the guys taking the shots there. But yeah, these seem not mortal locks status, but I was really hoping to get him on a shot prop because I think he's really likely. If you find it on another site, I definitely would jam it in. But I'm really high on him on DFS. I'm high on this entire Nashville team, to be honest. So anything you want to mention on Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, so it sounds like Alex DeBrincat is in the COVID protocol, so there's a lot of question. It seems like he won't play. Frankly, we don't know a lot about how that will unfold. We have Pia Suter playing with Patrick Kane. My guess is Kubalik slides up to that top line, so you could get some value there. But in general, it's really not a known situation. And frankly, it's not a situation I want to target. Patrick Kane is really priced up in DFS, and his odds just aren't that great. So I think Nashville takes care of business here. They get back on the right foot, and I'm really all in on that Arvidsson, Yossi, Forsberg power play stack.
Right.
So I like all of that. Anything else before we move on?
No, let's move on. I mean, obviously, if you paid Suter in the last game, just thank your boys here because we touted him on both of these podcasts talking about like what a potential great shot producer he could be. So you're welcome for that take. The great hat trick from him. So Edmonton and Winnipeg is the next game up. It's not a pick 'em, but it's probably as close as you're going to get. I think it's the closest on this slate. Not just about the closest on this slate. So either way, if you like either side, obviously Winnipeg kind of just loses Line and Roslovic. Not that they had much of Roslovic this season, but they definitely get worse potentially. Line hasn't played in a couple games, but Pierre-Luc Dubois will not play in this game. So I guess you could kind of pencil me in for the Edmonton side. The big news on this one is the will should be yes, we get Puljujarvi with McDavid. That should be the plan for them. So really, really cheap on DraftKings, really like minimum salary on FanDuel. Puljujarvi, is there any other player prop bets from this game that you're kind of thinking about from that kind of news of Puljujarvi with Conrad McDavid here?
I mean, look, like Puljujärvi on Sunday was incredible. Like he
Yeah.
unlocked an element that on offense, I mean, to the McDavid line that we just aren't going to see with a Zach Cassian or even guys like Josh Archibald. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and he got the run. He played, I think, 18 minutes in that one. He even got a small dose of time on the first power play. Now, I'm not here telling you that he's going to replace James Neal on the power play. I don't know. But if there's even the smallest of chance he does that, he's a lock on DraftKings because he's playing at 5-5 with Connor McDavid and Ryan Nugent Hopkins against Winnipeg, who maybe has a half of a good defenseman. Like,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that's just almost too obvious. So, there's a lot of bets, or, you could bet on Puljujärvi to pick up a point, to score a goal. He's plus 340. Like, there's
Yeah.
a lot of
Famous
ways you can
Zach
attack
Cassian.
it.
It's Zach Cassian at plus 340 or Jesse Puljujärvi. Oof.
Yeah, so
Nice.
like, just Puljujärvi has a ton of pedigree coming in. He started the year hot in limited minutes. He got really good chances. He earned his way to the top line, and I fully expect him to take advantage of it here. I like the Oilers in this game. I just think they're better than Winnipeg is.
Mhm.
So give me the money line, and I think that Puljujärvi though is just like the best player prop you can find here.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm going to have a ton of this, but Kyle Connor over 3.5 plus 120. I think that's very fair. Like he should be the guy that's featured with the shots. I'm not sure if it's 100%, but I really like this guy to be just keep turning it on as far as a shot producer. Last game, he only had the one. So I think people will be really off of that as a narrative, but I'm still on it. I think against a weaker Edmonton team and a 6.5, like they are going to need to be feeding him. So I'm not afraid of the recency bias in this scenario. I think it's going to be pretty good odds on him just getting 4 shots on net. And I think he does that pretty often on the season, especially now with Line gone. Like he's going to be more of a focal point of the power play in the future. So if you like this game for the over, I think him getting the 4 shots is a good take. But are you ready to move over to Detroit at the Stars? Is that up next? No,
First,
LA,
first we'll
Minnesota.
do yeah. First we'll do LA Minnesota. So that one is a bit of a snoozer, relatively speaking. So we're looking at a 5.5 over under there. Minnesota's a pretty large favorite. I think you're really looking to buy on Minnesota. It just they're coming off of a real down game against the Sharks, but that felt more like a Brent Burns couple of games where I mean he literally won the game for them in the final 5 minutes with just an insane one man effort. But Minnesota seems like they found their guys in Kaprizov and Fiala. Um, like it just doesn't feel like they should only be minus 160, minus 155 at home, hosting the Kings. So just sign me up for that money line. I think that's really sound. Any other thoughts you have on this game though?
Yeah, I don't hate the over on Fiala's 2.5 shots on goal. Like he's still shooting.
Never.
Like he finally scores 2 goals in the 2 games. He doesn't have as many shots on net. Like I think he's still the guy that's shooting, and I think he's going to continue to. And just because of the recency bias, I'm not buying in on it. It lowered his shot totals on DraftKings from like the 3.5 he was kind of getting to keep him at 2.5 at fair enough odds to bet on it. So jam that in, and let's move on to the game that I already prefaced. Detroit
Yeah.
at Dallas. I got the jersey on. I got the Dallas Stars tonight because Dennis Gurianov, I'm locking him in DraftKings. So
Look, Gurrianov season is here. We
it's
were wondering
arrived.
kind of what we were going to do with no Sagan. He's out to begin the year. Now there's no Jamie Benn. Seems like he's going to be out in this one. And what they've done, at least for the first 2 games, is really what they should have been doing since they did in the bubble last year, which is just give the puck to Gurrianov and let him shoot. he's got
Yeah.
he's got a rocket. He's a big boy. He's fast. Like, boy, if he's playing first line minutes, first power play, I just want to be in on him. You tell me that on this biggest slate, he might go overlooked against the freaking Red Wings, who made Chicago look competent. Yeah, like that's just an auto smash. So we're getting them as the largest favorites of the night at minus 200. Seems fair. Hockey's hockey. Crazy things can happen, and Thomas Greiss can have a night or whatever. But just in general, I think that Dallas is really a force to be reckoned with. There's a little bit of hesitancy to just bet minus 200 on basically anything in the league at this point in time, because who knows what happens with COVID and everything else. It's just weird. So with that said, though, I think there are some really interesting elements, just from the player props. DJ, do you have any that stand out to you?
I mean, just lock me in for Gorianov scoring. I don't even
Yeah.
care what the odds are. He's the highest high danger scoring chance per 60 player on all situations. He is definitely the guy they're trying to feed the puck to shoot it. Like, just give me those guys on those kind of bets all day, every day. I don't think I would, pair it with too much. I don't like going with a ton of guys to score with, a big sort of parlay. So it's plus 190. It's not great, but like it's fair enough for me.
11-1 first goal.
I know.
I think we should just do that.
Bet
You know,
the mortgage. Gorianov.
Yeah. So unfortunately, he's not given the shot prop, but if we do see that tomorrow, I'm probably just pounding the over because
It's so frustrating, dude.
Yeah.
They really have not given me like the more random guys that you hope they put on there that they just put at 2.5 because like it's just like a seemingly the standard
Nobody,
status quo. Yeah, and they're just not giving it to me. Really frustrating. So yeah, definitely. If you like the Stars, I think you're right. The money line isn't great, minus 200. It's kind of tough for me to say the obvious take it. But the one thing I just want to note is that in DraftKings or FanDuel, it doesn't matter. FanDuel does even cheaper. I am going to continue to target against bad teams. And Detroit is a bad team. I don't care that they've had a couple competent games. They're not good. So I'm going to be jamming in Dallas as a team that could get 5 goals. And just hoping that it hits, and I think it will hit sooner or later. And Detroit is bad. LA is still bad. They've looked competent. I'm not riding that. So keep giving me all that equity and low ownership against Detroit.
All right. Well, getting away from some of these bad teams, we have an absolute doozy out west. We have Vegas hosting St. Louis. Obviously, the prevailing narrative there is the Pietrangelo revenge game against his former team, but you could also almost look at it as a revenge game for his teammates, who he basically spurned in order to go out to Vegas. So this one should be a real fun one. We have Vegas installed as minus 140 favorites to begin this, and the over-under's at 6 right now. So where I stand on this one is, I don't think we've really seen what this Vegas team is fully capable of yet,
No.
especially on the offensive end. Like, it seems like every time I turn their game on, they're buzzing, they're generating shots. It took them like 58 minutes, I think, in 2 of their 4 games against Arizona to even score a goal, and they won.
Yeah.
They won both of those games, and so I think that they jump out early. I just really like this Vegas team as they're constructed. They've looked real dangerous, and they're not even getting guys like Marchessault in the mix yet. So, any other thoughts or news or notes from this game?
Yeah, they did actually move the first power play to be Pietrangelo with Carlson, Marchessault, Pacioretty, and Stone. So that's a little bit different. We get Marchessault on the first power play instead of the second kind of unit. I think, there's a lot of ways to go about that, but it does kind of make the first 2 line stacks with Pietrangelo make a lot more sense than putting in Shea Theogoat or Theodore, and I call him Theogoat because he's the best. So yeah, I definitely think that if you're stacking on DraftKings, your guy is going to be that Pietrangelo guy in the revenge narrative. I'm trying not to get too invested in narratives, but I like this one. So I'm probably focused in on Vegas still as the money line to win it. And then I like that stack. Any way you want to put it, that first power play unit.
Yeah. So we don't really talk about unders too much because, unders aren't fun. But if you want to talk about an under prop, shots on goal for a guy like Ryan O'Reilly, it's only 1.5, but O'Reilly doesn't shoot the puck. I think Vegas gets on him. You're getting plus money for Ryan O'Reilly in the under. You're basically just betting on 0 or 1. To me, it just feels like it's going to be Perron as the shooter there. O'Reilly just hasn't really gotten it done. And again,
do you parlay that?
Is a matchup. Yeah. So, I think an interesting strategy on these giant slates is to parlay a few different lines. You're not getting crazy. I don't think you're doing 13, bet parlays, but do a couple 3, do a couple 4. You can stretch it out to get some really nice odds. And, it's not like you're betting on, straight up coin flips, especially if these player props, they're beatable. It's different than I think like football where there's so much liquidity and like every single bet you can make. A lot of these bookmakers don't know the difference between a Chandler Stevenson or an Alex Tuck. Like those two guys have the same goal scoring odds on DraftKings. Like which one do you think is going to shoot more and all that? Like give me Tuck, but like they don't know that. So I just think there is a lot of value in these sort of shot props and like these, especially the unders when you can find good ones. And yeah, I would have no problem parlaying them and getting some better odds there.
Yeah. Well, I guess the way I was putting it is if you have a clear correlation where like O'Reilly is on the ice, Perron is on the ice. If O'Reilly only gets 1 or 0 shots, Perron probably has 4 or 5. Not definitely, obviously. It's not like a perfect, plan, but it does seem more likely if that to be the case. So that's kind of the one way of looking at this. Not that you have to ever do it, but if you like a game to be kind of an over and a high pace, then that's probably the way it's going to go.
Yeah. So the one problem, you might be able to do this on FanDuel with their same game parlays. I honestly don't know if they've done that for the NHL yet, but you actually can't do the same game in a parlay. So that's why in the bigger slates, it's fun to kind of go like 7 different games, your best bet from each. But at least that's how I do it.
Everyone bets all over the place. So if you can get that, just an idea, just something to say. Okay, yeah,
something to
Toronto at Calgary. I mean, I kind of like I think that I like the over, if anything, even though it's 6.5. Like this game should be a ton of fun. I don't know if I'll have it because a 6.5 is just crazy to sort of bet on. But I love this game. I love Austin Matthews in every aspect of this game. He is the premier shooter on maybe the entire league. At this point, he's basically become Ovechkin. So I definitely in on Austin Matthews. I don't believe it's very good odds, but I love this game from every aspect of it. Get the players from it. Austin Matthews is minus 275 over 3.5. So they pretty much priced that out of consideration. But
yeah, I mean, but
what are your thoughts?
Frankly, they left us some value because we came into this year. I mean, the Leafs are the odds-on favorite, basically. They come out of the North. And yeah, they're on the road, but like they just beat these Flames on Sunday, and they're essentially a pick-em. Like, what do the Leafs need to do? Like, was their slow start where they like won a ton of games and everyone freaked out because they weren't winning by enough or whatever it was? Like, are we really overreacting to the Leafs at this point? I don't think so. With Matthews back in the fold, that just makes him even better. So I'm grabbing this Leafs money line. I like the Flames from a DFS perspective too. Don't get me wrong. Guys like Rasmus Anderson, Johnny Gaudreau, those guys seem like decent DraftKings values. But I think that Toronto has the firepower to put up 4 or 5 here with their eyes closed. That seems to me like a really good bet, grabbing the Toronto value. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned Matthews just being priced out of consideration.
Yeah, I know. Look at the one point that they have. If you just go to that quick, it's literally minus 195, minus 182, minus 225, minus 2. It's just crazy. Yeah. Like they're just giving you no value on this game because it's like the 6.5 is just like such a clear, like it could definitely, like more than likely you're going to see at least 5 goals. Like, could you get that one extra to get it to 6? Probably. Like, then is it 3-3? Are you guaranteeing this? Like, I just sort of, I see this game being close. I see it getting to 3-3 and just like, we're going to get to overtime. We're going to get 7 type of my thought. And I like Toronto a little bit more, but I'm probably not too strong.
Yeah, and just to close out the Toronto thoughts, Morgan Riley on both the daily fantasy sites is too cheap for his role and his offensive involvement here. So let's get over to the last 2 games of the night. We have San Jose at Colorado. Colorado, a massive minus 220 favorite here. Even bigger favorites than Dallas versus Detroit. I don't know where I stand on that because I think the Brent Burns show is back. I mean, he took over that game against Minnesota. Obviously from a DFS perspective, he's great, but even on ice, I think he's good again. I think Erik Karlsson is good again. And when you have those guys out there for 2/3 of the game, if not basically the entire game, I just don't think you should be, plus 200 to pick up a W against even the best teams in the league. So I like the Sharks here. What about you?
I don't think I'm going to take the Sharks personally. I probably don't take either side of this coin because I just think Colorado's priced a little like the money lines is too high for me to want to take a very low upside when I do think this game should be a lot closer than that money line indicates. The 6 is, I think, perfect. I think it's kind of like it definitely could sway either way. If you get it at 5.5, you lock that in. If it's at 6, I think you could definitely go either way. But the goaltending is pretty bad here. Depending either guy in the Sharks is going to be not good on paper. So I probably like the over if anything on any of these money lines. But there's a ton of value in San Jose on DraftKings and FanDuel. And I think Brent Burns could be that sneaky play that you need to win a GPP, because I think it's going to go under, like everything goes under owned on a 13 game slate. Like you can't tell me there's a player that's going to be too highly owned. So I'm sort of thinking he could be the unlock button as far as, him and Puljujarvi, you can kind of let them offset each other in price and get the guy that has an unbelievably high upside. So
yeah, I echo those thoughts entirely. So one thing, looking at the point player props, and this is something where just keeping an eye on player roles and lineup changes is super useful. So as I said, I like San Jose, but listen to this. Thomas Hertl to not score a point, -106. Logan Couture, -109 to not score a point. Timo Meier, -112. Basically the same odds as Couture and Hertl. However, Timo Meier on the third line, on the second power play, yeah, he's a good player. But, you're talking second line, first power play guys with the exact same odds. I think Timo Meier not to score a point is just really good value because he's not being given the role right now. So, confirm that in morning skate, but we did see that in practice Monday. We saw that last game, Monday, and we saw that last game. So I imagine it sticks. And yeah, I think that's another really good value bet.
Yeah, I mean, he had 14 minutes total of ice time, and maybe 2 of those came, or 1.5 came on the power play. Like he's getting very little 5-on-5 time. So they don't score on the second power play unit, and you're in pretty good shape, unless you think Gregor is going to have another one. So,
all right. So we've made it through 13 games. We have one more left. Anaheim at Arizona. And boy, if you want to talk about a downer of a game to end things on, because this one 5.5, not quite a pick 'em. Arizona's a -130 favorite, but man, if there was a game I do not have a read on, it's this one. And it's almost not because I don't know these two teams, but it's because I do not care about these two teams. I'll say it. They both play a pretty boring brand of hockey. Their players just don't excite me that much. So do you have any initial thoughts looking at this game?
I mean, I think one player prop, I guess, a guy that's been pretty hit or miss this season. They started off really hot shooting the puck, has definitely cooled off, but Christian Dvorak at 1.5, he really did profile as a huge shot producer coming into the league. It's -195, so it's not great equity. It kind of honestly sucks that it's that bad, but he profiles to be a guy that's going to shoot the puck a ton coming into the league, and I think he still continues that. So -195, but it's feel like free money to me to him to get 2 shots on net here. Any thoughts on any? I know you have been jamming the under on Clayton Keller. I'm not sure if you're continuing that trend.
Yeah, I mean, he's being priced as if he's the focal point of this team. And frankly, he's not been. He's been basically relegated to second line, second power play work at best. Now, of course, that can change, especially if they're struggling to pick up points. But Clayton Keller, he's pretty much the best guy if you want to bet, he has the worst odds if you want to bet the overs, basically. Meaning that if you want to bet the unders, he has some of the best odds, in my opinion, on this team. So, I don't know if I'm betting him -125 to not pick up a point, but if you're looking for just something to really, really pile up the equity to bet nose, pick up 2 points, he's -185 or -3. Oh my God, -835 on the no. I just don't see a world where Clayton Keller does that. You add that on to a 16 parlay or whatever. I feel like that's actually not the dumbest thing you could do with a massive parlay, just taking free money bets like that. Now, of course, anything can happen, but this game just has snooze fest written all over it. So, so that's really the only thing I feel strongly about. And that's a terrible, quote unquote value. But, even 10%, I don't see that, happening 10% of the time. So,
sure.
All right, so that'll cap our game by game segment. As we alluded to, especially over on DraftKings, the GPP straights are popping tonight. So DJ and I have come prepared with some of our top stacks of the night. So I don't think we'll do this in any particular order, but basically we'll just go back and forth, sort of hitting you with our top stacks of the night. We'll point out, where the value pieces are, etc., to make these lineups work. So DJ, hit me with them.
Yeah, I mean, my first one is going to be that Nashville stack. I'm going to have what you said exactly: Forsberg, Arvidsson, and Yossi. I think it's super duper strong. I'm going to have that all over on both sites. So Matt, do you have one you're ready with?
Yeah, I mean, Edmonton with Puljujärvi is just salary unlocked. So just give me that first line, McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, and then Puljujärvi, basically minimum salary across the industry. He unlocks a ton for you and gives you, an obvious correlation piece to two of the best plays on the night, regardless of having that value to go right along with them. So give me that Edmonton one stack.
Yeah, I think on FanDuel, this stack makes even more sense. The Rupe Hintz, Dennis Gurianov, Klingberg. I think on DraftKings, it's a little bit tougher for me to want to jam in Klingberg for sure. His floor is pretty bad, but 6,200, I think, if you really like this line to explode, he's the guy you probably want with it with the power play exposure. So Rupe Hintz, Dennis Gurianov, and John Klingberg.
All right. So going way back to the beginning of the show, we talked about Philly. DraftKings has massively underpriced these Flyers. We talked about their first power play likely being Giroux, Voracek, JVR. All of those guys come in for a combined 12.5K on DraftKings. You're even getting Giroux at center now, so it's like a nice little correlation. So really that seems to me like the most obvious way to just load up on really what I think will be a really good team in a really good matchup at just significantly deflated prices and on such a big slate, just really low ownership too. So don't need to worry about that one. So really like Philly here.
Yeah, I think as a two-man stack, and you could make it three if you want, but the Hurdle Burns stack, I think is pretty sharp as well. Hurdle's kind of getting featured in all roles, penalty kill with Burns, which is really unlikely, but power play and 5-on-5, they'll see a ton of run together. So I think that two-man makes a lot of sense if you want to get, just a two-man stack. If you want to put a guy with him, Kane is the 5-on-5 guy, but he's playing power play too. So I could see it, but it's kind of expensive for a lack of exposure on the power play. So probably just the two-man there for me.
Who's on the first power play besides Hurdle, Couture, Carlson, Burns? I thought that was Kane.
LeBanc.
Oh, LeBanc got put there.
LeBanc got put up there. Yeah.
All right.
So, then, you could go for it. Yeah, I know what you're going to do next.
So I was going to usurp you on Hurdle because Logan Couture is even cheaper than Hurdle.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that's pretty good. And then if we get this LeBanc thing going, that guy's a player. So,
right.
I don't know if I'm going all in on San Jose and DFS. I just think there's so many spots that I like. However, Brent Burns is obviously a guy I really like.
All right, let's do one more each and get out of here.
We'll pick up one more each. So, all
right.
You go ahead.
Ready. Yeah, right. I think you could go a couple different ways with this one, but Alexei Lafreniere at 2.9 with Mika Zibanejad at 6.6. Those are two tough names to say back to back. I think you obviously want Adam Fox, and on FanDuel, he is a free square at 4,500. But on DraftKings, he is 6,600. It's a little bit tougher, but the floor is really there with this guy. I still think it's worth doing. And those are the guys you probably want to get in with. Lafreniere, I think as far as your minutes on ice to price ratio that I just made up, he might be the best. He's getting 18 to 20 minutes, and first line, just power play too is what hurts him. If we ever get confirmation that he's moving to that first unit, which I'm just counting down the seconds until he takes over for Ryan Strome, we could really be looking at a guy that's just the absolute smash lock button. So give me that Zibanejad, Lafreniere, and Fox. Or if you want to get crazy on DraftKings, I think you could do Panarin, even though they're not going to see a lot of run together. That three-man unit just could smash.
Yeah, so, I think you pointed out that Adam Fox was significantly underpriced on FanDuel, but just in case you didn't,
45.
Yeah, making sure. Yeah, that's just
it is the lock of the night. I'm making that new segment up right now
on FanDuel. Yeah,
on FanDuel, the FanDuel lock of the night, dude. Hronik too, 36, Puljujärvi 35. Just get all the guys you want. It's great.
Yeah, it's fun. So my last stack, let's get really creative with this one. The double center stack in Pittsburgh.
Don't do it to him.
I mean, Evgeny Malkin is $5,200. Yeah, it's Boston. Yeah, Malkin hasn't done jack squat at the beginning of this year, but it's Evgeny Malkin. Like, play him on a power play stack with Sidney Crosby, who, admittedly is 6,700, but still, underpriced for what Sidney Crosby is. And then, grab a Letang or a Gensel or a Rust. Yeah, you're not getting great 5-on-5 correlation, but we're all about the power plays here. And so in this spot, I just think there's so much upside there that is not captured, particularly in that Malkin price.
I'm all in on it. I love that take. I mean, I talked about it on our other podcast. It's really, really nice. I don't know if it's as sexy on FanDuel. Crosby and Malkin a little bit priced up there. So definitely more of a DraftKings take, but that's fine by me. Rust is super cheap over on FanDuel, 5,500. So with that, I think we probably covered everything that we could cover without going overboard. I think we're hitting near the hour mark. So I think we'll get on out of here. Definitely rate, review, comment. Pat Mayo just gave away another $100. That is likely to happen again. I don't know if it's on the docket quite yet, but he's giving away free money. Keep commenting, keep reviewing, keep letting us know. I'm reading all the YouTube comments. I'll continue to. I love seeing your guys' bets in there. Let us know if we hit something that you made some money on. If your lineup smashes, send it to us. We love seeing those. Continue to interact with us. We'll keep interacting back with you on on Twitter. I am DJ_Mitchell94. Matt is at Fake Moods. And then we're also over at the Morningscape podcast. If you want to get into the Discord to talk more hockey, we've gained a lot of new followers. A lot of people have joined in, and it's been great. People just raking in money. I mean, I don't know how they're going to keep it all in their bank accounts. I said the symptoms of listening to both of our shows do include enlarged pockets. Matt, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, no, I mean, I pretty much second everything you say there. It's been a great start to the year. So let's enjoy this monster of a slate. And
Gurianov goal.
Gurianov goal incoming. So make sure you subscribe. I want to see your favorite bet in the comments. Because we talked about a ton of them here. And I'm honestly really interested what stuck out the most to our loyal listeners and our loyal
I'll
viewers.
be tweeting my favorite bets from this show, and if anything changes, because the lines always are moving around a little bit. So I'll be tweeting those out hopefully around between like 5 and 6 is my plan before the lock, because at that point I'm out of work. So it makes a little more sense for me. So around 5 to 6, I'm going to try to tweet out my favorite bets at that point on the DK Sportsbook, what I like the most, top 3, long shot, which is going to be Connor Verhaeghe, just a FYI.
All right, perfect. So with all that said, best of luck out there, and we will see you.